and thanks for joining me for today's video. Today I'm going to be having a look at the Strathmore Vision Mixed Media Sketchbook. This was one I'd promised to do a bit of a more in-depth review in the comments of a previous video, so this is this video for you guys. What I wanted to do was really test this sketchbook out with a bunch of different materials so I could really give an accurate review. This one I have done a few different watercolor tests. I was testing out blending. As you can see, it has warped the paper a little bit, but as you guys might know, that really doesn't bother me. That's just something I think adds a bit of character to a sketchbook. This one I have done like a galaxy background, and I did a few layers, and I also really scrubbed at the paper here because I wanted to see how much it could really handle. It's not really noticeable when you look at it if you were just glancing at it, but up close you can see that it did kind of peel a little bit there. So it's not really designed to handle a lot of overworking. These ones are some little watercolor landscape illustrations that I did. I've just taped them down so I could do a few. I didn't do a lot of blending. It was really kind of like a one layer minimal blending. Same with these gouache landscape studies here as well. I painted those in a similar fashion. Again, a bit of warping. The gouache has come across to the other side of the page. It's rubbed off a little bit there, so that's something to be mindful of if you're using gouache. This here is a piece I've done with my Ohuhu brush markers. Those are alcohol-based markers. As is with every paper except for the render paper, this will always come through to the back. It's just be mindful if it comes through to the other side. Thankfully that didn't. These ones are the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay India inks. I'd just gotten them and I wanted to test them out from solid colour down to a wash, and I've just swatched out some of my Prima Marketing watercolours here as well. This little illustration here was done as a Draw This in Your Style challenge from this artist on Instagram. I did this with alcohol-based markers. This came through to the back, but a little bit also came through to the second page, so maybe something you might want to consider is just putting a scrap piece of paper underneath so it doesn't really matter if ink comes through. These are some little watercolor illustrations I did using my Prima Marketing watercolor palettes. This book is really obviously great for general sketching. This is another watercolor piece. I used some Winsor & Newton watercolors for this one, and I'm going to show you the time lapse for that in this video as well. I used a lot of water for this one, so it buckled quite a bit. And these little illustrations here, I used watercolor markers for that one to test those out as well. And this piece here, I've actually used acrylic paint. I just wanted to use some leftover paint from another project I was working on. I kind of just did one layer of black and then painted the moon and the water reflections, but I found that the paper handled the acrylic pretty well as well, so definitely a lot of media was used in this test. So overall, I have to say I'm pretty impressed with this sketchbook. It has a pretty good price point. There's 70 pages, it's 9 by 12. It would take quite a long time to fill this up, and it's really perfect for experimenting. If you're expecting this paper to be really high-end, like, you know, Arches watercolor paper or something like that, you're going to be disappointed because it's really not aimed for that. This really is aimed at students and for experimenting with different media. It handles a lot of things fairly well, so really good for practicing different techniques before you take it to your really expensive papers and that kind of thing. It's a really great sketchbook to carry around. It also comes in two different sizes, so this big 9 by 12, and it also comes in a small size as well, so perfect if you wanted to chuck it in your bag and carry it around with you. So overall, I think this is a pretty good sketchbook. It's not as good as some, but it's better than others, so it really comes down to personal preference and what you want to get out of your sketchbooks as well. So as you can see here, I use quite a lot of water on this particular painting. I just really wanted to push this paper to its limits. That is how I kind of function as an artist. I really try and push my art supplies to the limit and see what I can do with it and what I can get out of it. So I was really trying to have a really light image with lots of kind of contrast with these light and dark colours. So I did use quite a bit of water. As you saw earlier, it did buckle quite a bit, but again, having the book closed and maybe if I sat something on it, it would probably flatten out a little bit over time. Again, that's not something that bothers me, but if it bothers you, then maybe this isn't the sketchbook for you. Strathmore have an absolute abundance of different types of papers, and they have quite a few mixed media papers as well. In this video, I thought I would show you their toned papers. I'm going to redraw this sketch in a different way on this toned grey mixed media paper. This one's quite thick, so it can handle quite a lot of paint and water and other things, so I'm going to use that one for this video. I also wanted to show you the toned blue paper that they have. This is still like a grey paper but is cooler toned, so hence the blue. So you've got the nice warm of the grey, and then the blue tone is a lot cooler. So they have a couple of different options there, and as you can see, it comes in a couple of different sizes. So if you want to be able to use something that's going to be able to handle a bit more, then maybe these ones would be a little bit better. But Strathmore also make a thicker plain white sketchbook as well in the mixed media. As you can see, a lot of the footage is gone from this video. Unfortunately, my camera was still doing that weird shaky thing that it has done in a couple of other videos, so I decided instead of torturing you guys with that I would just completely cut that. So I've used my Magello Mission White Class watercolor gouache hybrid paints. I've also used some colored pencils, white gel pen, and I've also used a Derwent graphic liner for adding some of these sort of green smudgy details in the background of this image, which I'm going to show you here. I have to say, I can't honestly recommend these Derwent graphic markers. I found they were really good when I first got them, but over time they've the paint's kind of dried up in them and they just don't function as they should. Well, not all of them do anyway, which is pretty disappointing. So anyway, I hope you found this video at least a little bit helpful if you are looking at the Strathmore Vision Mixed Media Sketchbook, or even if you were contemplating the grey toned mixed media paper from them. I hope you've enjoyed, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and please hit like and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. It also really helps my channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.